Welcome into this beautiful Tuesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And fellas, we had a Monday night barn burner.
That was awesome.
I expected to come here, take a few notes about what happened last night, think that the Eagles walked them all up and down the football field. Didn't happen.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
Not me.
Didn't happen.
You're a bright guy.
Falcons survive on the road. Fourth quarter comeback. Kirk Cousins
Falcons thrive on the road. Primetime Kirk last night. Did you see him, Pete Prisco? Go ahead, finish, Renner.
And he's now 4-12 on prime.
Who's the bigger takeaway from this side? Are we more encouraged about the Falcons going forward after their massive loss on week 1 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or are we more encouraged about or discouraged about the Eagles going?
I'm a little bit discouraged by a guy by the name of Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore and some of the things that they're trying to get accomplished offensively. Because when you got that offensive line, you get an opportunity to put a team away. You friggin' do it, Pete. You take it, and that Brinks truck that they brought all the money in for those offensive linemen, you park it right by the sideline as a reminder to the defense. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run the football. That's why we have all these guys. They don't. They throw it to Saquon. Next thing you know, you get a fourth down opportunity, take the lead with a first down. They don't get the first down. Mike says they should have pushed it twice. I think you can run it any kind of way with that group and get the first down, get out of there with a win. But then Kirk Cousins goes down. Darnell Mooney, his new homie in Atlanta, and they find a way to win.
You know, it's funny. Later on, I have my pick apart a coach, and it's clearly going to be Nick Sirianni for his decision. It was a terrible decision. It really was. And we could play that and spin it forward. And I'll show you different ways that it's just dumb. But more than that, they got away from the run. I mean, both teams kind of got away from the run, which was surprising. I think both teams could have gashed them. I'm more concerned about the Eagles' defense. You know, Vic Fangio was supposed to come in there, and they got all the assets and money tied up into that front. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith they drafted. Huff, who's a no-show in 2 games. Brandon Graham is probably their best guy right now, and he
65. Got blocked by a tight end last night at one point.
And so they're little at linebacker. N'Kobe Dean's tiny. They get bodies on him, you run on them, and I think that's a problem. I'm worried about the Eagles' defense.
I am too, and it's not getting any easier. Saints on tap next week. Probably run the ball better than anyone else in the NFL right
against
now.
That front.
That could be a bloodbath. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It wasn't just Sirianni, and I do question not only the decision to pass there, but then the decision not to go for on fourth down, which I'll get to after this. But defensively, I watched them put Jalen Carter up against Chris Lindstrom the entire night. On the last drive of the game, they know they're passing. You have them going one-on-one against the Falcons' best offensive lineman, the all-pro right guard. You put your best defensive tackle against him, and you have Moro Ajomo going one-on-one against Matthew Bergeron, easily their worst offensive lineman at left guard. I don't know how you don't game plan for a situation like that to just say, I want my best guy against their worst guy. It costs you nothing.
Good defensive fronts understand that better than anybody. Good defensive line coaches can feel that and have an understanding with their guys. You know, there were times in my career where I'd go against the ace for a couple plays, and then he would get pissed off, and he'd go against somebody else. And the next thing you know, your quarterback's down in the backfield, and you're like, well, there's a reason why they moved this thing around. Last night, we didn't see that willingness from Jalen Carter or their D-line coach to get them in the right spot. I'm not sure who their D-line coach is. I think I saw Clint Hurt over there, potentially. Clint Hurt, a former Seattle guy. I don't know. He's very large. So if you see him, you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, Jalen going against Lindstrom, that's a mute button. We talk about the mute button award, which we're going to give out here in a little bit. But at the end of the day, you want your best guys in advantageous situations to win. It's not that against Lindstrom, particularly at the end of the football.
Later in his career, they were moving the best guy over him.
Exactly. That's why I said there was a certain point in time, if you had a technology, you can see the film.
In this Eagles defensive line, they have too many guys that just want to rush the passer. I mean, Jalen Carter being one of them, but then also Milton Williams on the interior. And then Jordan Davis can't play against stretch zone runs. Like, he can't get wide. He has to go in a phone booth to play the run.
And the ends get blocked all the time.
Yes.
They're little. They're small.
So, like, they have kind of the same problem that the Jets have defensively in that front seven, where it's just like they got too many guys who want to get up the football field. If you just really are patient and want to run the football against them, you can pretty much have everything you want against this defensive front, and that's kind of scary.
Remember when Red Bryant was in the NFL?
Yeah, he was big giant man.
Because also Vic Fangio is like not known for the running game.
Throw him at end. Throw Jordan Davis at end and let him build a wall on the outside. Now you got one edge taken care of, and now you can put some guys who can defend that mid zone in there as well.
Did you ever block him?
No, I didn't. But I had to, watch him on film, and I had to pray for our tackle. But I will say this: when the Atlanta Falcons elect to run the football and they get that guy Bijan Robinson on a stretch, it looks like poetry in motion. I mean, I texted him last night. I said, this looks like football pornography. This is what you sign up for. I'll get the premium package to watch them run with Bijan, not only able to stretch the defense, but he gets to the sideline and can turn that thing up and dance on that white line. There's only a handful of athletes in the National Football League who can do it. We saw 2 of those running backs last night.
Yeah, and they struggled to run the ball. I mean, they weren't great last week against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's pretty good. Bergeron, you mentioned he was terrible against the Steelers. I haven't watched last night's game yet, but that line, when they get going, they're good. They're a good run blocking line. They're not great in pass protection, but they're good run blocking line, and I think you saw that.
I mean, the addition of play action, which again we didn't see week 1, I think almost double-digit play action passes this past week for Kirk Cousins. It was over the middle of the football field, like exactly kind of what we said what they were lacking the first week was just that ability to draw the linebackers up and then hit over the top. That was like Kirk Cousins until the final drive. That's what he was living on in that passing game. So I think I agree with you guys that this is more of an indictment of the Eagles. I think the Falcons, Kirk still doesn't look like Kirk, right? Like the
Falcons
arm
fan, I'm a lot happier. Not just because of the win. Even if they lost the football game last night, I'd say, okay, I've seen it on tape now. Your willingness to stick to the run game, set up the play action protection. And to your point, they want to be in the run game, and it helps guys. Like the notes I took, both offensive lines came out in the first half. They showcased the things they were excited about. Commitment to the run and hard play action. I was laughing at how easy it looks when a guy like Jake Matthews, all he does is run block, and then they call pass, and he does the same technique, and he can just sit down on a power. It looks easy. He's over there yawning. The Eagles' right side, I thought they were great at some points, disjointed at some points, and it reared its head at the end of the game when Sirianni's unwillingness to run that football twice. Judon, big play cross face. He looked pretty good at times on a tight end. Jalen protected well. I wish we saw more runs out of this group. And then the big thing I wrote, Siri Analytics, ? Followed by they must be paying Jason Kelce $1 billion.
Let's get to that decision. So I'll lay out what happened. So the 4th and 3, right in the you're at the Falcons 10-yard line at the end of the game. I think it was like a minute 39.
No, it was a minute 49.
Minute 49, excuse me, left in that one. Falcons had no timeouts. Correct. So on that decision, pretty much any model about the game would tell you to go for it because you convert, you do whatever, game's over. You're trusting your offense, game's over. But if you don't convert, that's 90 yards they have to go in that time. So the chance of you losing in regulation is very, very slim.
What were they on, the 10? Was it the 10?
It was the 10. So
you got to assume they needed 3.
Yeah.
Let's just assume they don't get it. They get 2 more, so it's the 8.
Yeah, so 92 yards they have to go. So basically you're not going to lose in regulation should you go for it. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to go that far, as opposed to what happened was they got the ball to 30 and drove all the way down there. So a much shorter field from kicking the field goal. And then also the decision-making that happens when you're down 3 versus down 6. Down 6, you are aggressive. You have to go into the end zone. More likely than not, you're going to score a touchdown. So you're like, if you're getting there to that point, you are going all the way to the end zone. Whereas the opposite, if you're only up 3, they would go into, as soon as they got into field goal range, they would trust their kicker. Now, Younghoe, who's a good kicker, I wouldn't doubt him to miss it. And obviously he made that 48-yard extra point to win that game. So that was about what you would expect. But it is more often than not the correct play to not take that 6-point lead. The 6-point lead is fool's gold more often than not in the NFL than that 3-point lead.
I agree with you 100%. And usually I take the 3 points there in large part because you could have run the clock down to
because a minute. You could have had it under a minute if you ran on 3rd down.
No timeouts for the Falcons.
But there are a lot of things at play there, and you mentioned a bunch of the analytics stuff. And I always get into analytics. You love analytics because of nobody ever measures the inches.
Yes, yeah. So your 1-yard analytics.
But here's what I would have done. I would have run the ball. You run the ball, it takes 5 seconds off the play clock, right? Then you get run the play 5-6 seconds, so you're down to a minute 43. You go to the play, you're under a minute. If you run it again second time and don't get it, they're at the 8-yard line, 9-yard line with 47 seconds left.
Good luck.
No timeouts to go get a tying field goal. The other part of the equation is this, and you know this, you play. When teams are backed up, it's a different mentality than when you're on the 30-yard line.
Exactly.
I don't care. Everybody always says, "Oh, it's the same field." No, it's not. They play it differently. They play it differently when you're on the goal line. They play it differently when you're backed up. That's a different scenario for Kirk Cousins, and that's if they play.
If you're in the middle of the game and you're not talking about an end of game scenario, you're playing that thing a lot differently. But obviously, with your back against the wall in score and with time, you're going to have to run your offense. And with you backed up like that, it's got to be a quick game, stuff like that. But it remains to be seen if the offense would change that much. I think I disagree with you there in terms of the where we are in the game. It's the end of the half. We're not worried about turning the ball over, getting a safety. I mean, the game's over if we don't get down.
But I'm
the field.
saying the mentality of the place, the team, the defense, the attacking. It just in this scenario they're backed up. You know that all you got to do is prevent them from getting to the 50, and you win the game. Yeah. You're not preventing them from stopping.
In terms of real estate, we got to get down the field 90 yards. That's a you know what. But at the end of the day,
they would only need 50 in that scenario, right? To tie the game, you would only need it
with Younghoe's leg. Yeah.
But if I take a field with 50 seconds and I'm a defensive coordinator and I know all I got to do is keep everything in front of me and they can't get to the 50-yard line, I'm winning that game. Yeah. I'm winning that game in that scenario much more likely than a minute. What was it? A minute 30?
39.
Yeah.
And then, which was. And also, I mean, you say trust your defense, but I do think in either scenario, you're trusting your defense. It's also okay, trust your offense too, to go get us this fourth down. But I will say Quinyon Mitchell on that last drive, I couldn't believe how he clouded. He cover 2 on his side. He sinks to a flat. He goes to the flat instead of sinking underneath the corner route, gives up a big play. Next play allows a big out route.
Overcorrect.
He completely
and then
sank.
Slade just got whipped on that.
If you're again DC decisions on that final drive. Not to question Vic Fangio, he's a legend, obviously, but he didn't have a good game on that final drive. The decisions he made to, not hammer to your corners. It's not to sink deep, but also get to the sidelines. Deep and to the sidelines. All you want to do in that situation is just keep plays inbounds. Is all you can do. That's how you win that game.
But you also got to get some pressure too. I mean, you paid all these guys. You paid Huff. You got all the assets invested in it. Go get to the quarterback. Somebody hits him at any point and puts him on the ground. That game is over.
If I'm the Eagles, I'm lining 3 guys up over the other side. I'm going to have a loaded front opposite Lindstrom. I'm going to make him get involved late in the game pass off. Sometimes you get 3 guys on one side. One has to come back. Is he coming A gap, B gap, or is he going all around the tackle? Is the tackles guy going to be coming inside? Your eyes have to be perfect when you're the uncovered man in a loaded look. That could have been a front I would love to see from the Eagles. But the mismatch there with Lindstrom against anybody, it doesn't bode well.
He actually got beat for the sack by
Williams. He got beat inside early. Yeah.
Williams got him on that one play. He's a good player.
It was a good rush.
Yeah. But
right after he dominated on the screen.
They have all rushers and nobody rushed the drive to win the game. Nobody rushed. Where are they? I mean,
well, Murrow Jones was out there,
What would we have been saying this morning if that penalty that knocked him back on the point after attempt would have been the one that lost in the game? If Younghoe Koo misses that extra point.
That was kind of wild. Yeah,
put the gun away. Put the gun away until after the game, bro.
Some of these guys, I mean, Belichick was on with Manning and the 2 Mannings, and somebody got a penalty for something stupid, and you could just see the disdain on his face. It was driving him
drives
crazy.
These guys crazy because it could, it could lose you the football game.
See, I'd be bad if I was a coach because I'd want to grab that helmet.
You'd be hitting guys.
I wouldn't hit him.
You'd be doing the Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer to the Pop Warner kid. You will listen to me, son.
All right, we're going to get to how far the Eagles fell in Pete's power rankings because they fell in good ways. Right after this.
A Quiet Place Day 1 is now streaming on Paramount Plus. It's thrilling, terrifying. It will make your heart pound out of your chest. A Quiet Place Day 1, now streaming.
Run the football.
We all thought they were going to run.
Thought they were going to run the football. We get out of here. Sorry, we're still talking about the game.
We can't stop talking about the game because it was a wild one, and it dropped the pit. Gosh, I can't speak.
Go ahead. Get it out, Mike.
Eagles all the way down to 18 in Pete's power rankings. There's too many P's there. I was going to say Pete's. I was going to say Pittsburgh. I was going to say power rankings. But the Eagles to 18 in Pete's power rankings as we get to the top 10 here. No surprise at the top. Kansas City Chiefs remain there. Buffalo Bills at number 2. Houston Texans at number 3. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though. Here's where it starts to get crazy. All the way up to number 4 after the big win over the Lions. Minnesota Vikings at number 5, just like we all predicted in the preseason. New Orleans Saints at 6. Seattle Seahawks at 7. A team I highlight as being too low on, Pete, so thank you for coming around.
Yeah.
San Francisco 49ers at 8. Los Angeles Chargers at 9. Pittsburgh Steelers at 10 to round out that top 10. Some notables that have fallen all the way out. Lions not a top 10 team. Cowboys not a top 10 team. Ravens not a top 10 team. Eagles now not a top 10 team.
Jeez.
Down to the bottom 5. No surprises here. Tennessee Titans at 28. Washington Commanders at 29. Denver Broncos at 30. New York Giants at 31. and the Bryce Youngless Carolina Panthers now with Andy Dalton at the helm, all the way down at 32. I don't see those bottom few changing, especially that 30.
The rest of the season?
32nd
Yeah,
might be called the Carolina Panthers.
anything
honorary.
below 30 is going to belong to the Giants and the Panthers, I feel like, for the rest of the year. So we're pretty dead set.
The Broncos might be around.
Unless these guys just
Broncos.
absolutely
Broncos
ball
do,
out with
actually.
Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton goes out there and gets everybody to raise their level of play, we could be looking at a Carolina Panthers team that sneaks up on somebody. We've seen it before. We've seen it before.
I don't even need to entertain.
I've been on
love
3
Andy
and
Dalton,
13
but stop
teams.
it.
I've been on, 5 and 10, whatever teams. I can't do the math, but sometimes you get that backup quarterback in there, and they just ball out.
For a game or two, maybe.
That's what happens, though. But then, we're talking about a win for the Carolina Panthers.
All right, to the Goldilocks segment. Who's too high? Who's too low? And who is just
right?
Who you got, Kyle, for too high?
For me, too high is the Texans. And you know what? With all the talent they have, I expect to see them dominate every week. They haven't done that so far. They went against Caleb Williams in this offense of the Chicago Bears, who just couldn't get anything going. And you look at guys like Nico Collins catching these quick slants, going for 30 yards, ripping people apart physically. You should be dominating football games. You're at home on a primetime setting. You should be winning these games by 2+ possessions. I haven't seen that yet. I'm not afraid for the Houston Texans, but I think for right now, they're a little bit too high in your power rankings. Still, I want them in the top 10, but a little too high for me.
Okay. I disagree on this one, actually. I think that's why I put the Houston Texans right now. I think they're that good. And it's not as if they're hanging around like the Giants, right? Or the Panthers. Or they're hanging around to the end of these games with teams that everyone thought were going to be around like 8-9, 9-8, possible playoff teams. Like they could catch lightning in the bottle. So to do that, and especially on the road, divisional rival week 1, just getting the dubs is really all I care about. And it's like, you look at the talent on this team and you look at the ascending players, which we might get to a little later. Some of these guys that look good, that are youngsters, I think that you will see the dominance come with this team.
I think that I agree with you on the latter portion of that argument. The dominance will come. We know that C.J. Stroud is going to be comfortable and in lockstep with these guys on the receiving core. The defense looked really good at times last week. But, that sample size, you're going against the Chicago Bears. And then this Indianapolis Colts team, they went and laid an egg in Lambeau. So I have questions about those guys, which leads me to being a little bit too high for the Houston Texans.
I'm probably a little too high on them, but in large part because there's a lot of crappy teams in this league right now and disappointing teams. So I probably am. I was a little disappointed by what I saw the other night too. We talk about who they've played. They've played Anthony Richardson, who has how many starts in the NFL, and Caleb Williams, who has 2. He was in his second one. And so they've gotten inexperienced quarterbacks their first 2 games of the season. The most impressive thing, though, I thought, we know their edge rushers are going to rush the passer. They got good push on the middle the other night. They were just dominant. And your center,
I'll keep it to myself.
You love your center in Chicago.
Our right guard's great too.
Yeah, both of them. They had all kinds of problems. So I think they got pushed in the middle. That's impressive. And there are good players on the back end. I was a little concerned about the offense the other night. And that's a good defense, but they look a little disjointed. And everybody's talking about how happy Diggs is because that's coming and it's coming.
He's not getting enough targets.
He's
that's
not.
for sure.
Joe Mixon's going to be out this week with an ankle.
That's bad.
I mean, and even if he is in there, it ain't going to be right. You and I know these ankles, particularly for the running back position, is something to keep an eye on. So their offenses have to go in a different direction because they've been leaning on Joe Mixon a little bit with that style of play.
So I kind of agree with you, but I also agree with you. So they have to be at 3, but they haven't looked as good as I expected.
We're not panicking on the Texans, but they're too high.
My team that's too high is the team right after them. Tampa Bay Bucks at number 4.
Okay.
This one, I watched the Lions game, and I think I was too low on the Bucks going forward. And I think they're top 12 team in the NFL, like pretty comfortably at this point. I think their defense is a lot better than I gave them credit for, especially guys like Yaya Diaby, I think is like a real impact player on the defensive line. I think Vita Vea is much, much better than he was last year. Like guys at
360 now instead of 400.
Yeah, that helps. And like
He'll
Zion
be 385
McCollum
by the end of the week.
Of course he will.
Zion McCollum, I expected to be like a liability, and looks like their best corner through 2 weeks. So I think there's guys there's areas where I underrated them, but number 4 team is just like a little rich. If we're really buying into a team that started off hot in that division, I would go with the Saints, truthfully. But putting them over like the 49ers, just because the 49ers lost to the
49ers got problems.
Yeah, the problems was Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell.
That was
Justin Jefferson.
The other problem is now that Debo's out with.
Talk about a backed up offense. Look at that Vikings offense backed up the other day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty sexy to me.
I loved it.
Oh.
That's what I want to see.
So I just think there's a touch too high.
I agree with you there too.
But I started them high. I was higher on them than
You
most
were.
people. So I started them high. You think they're too high?
If I had two high teams, they were right next to each other in Houston, Texas, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, they're frisky as hell. Baker Mayfield can beat anybody.
Yeah, that's actually
anywhere.
the Baker Mayfield part is like
It
why
is.
I'm still like
It's the Baker Mayfield effect. Like this guy
They love him.
makes teams better. He's a football player in the classic sense. But I still have questions. I mean, they go give 5 sacks up with Aiden O'Connell on the road. That's no way to win football games. And if it's not for a heroic effort from that football team as a whole, you're not going to be winning that football
They
game.
played with a backup right tackle and didn't give him any help. I mean, Justin School played over there. He's not a good player.
Yep.
Gedeke was out. Cansey was out. Vita Vea went out. The
Vita's hurt
corners
now,
were
yeah.
out. Winfield was out. And yet they still found a way to limit what the Lions did. They're supposed to be the most explosive home offense in the league, and they limited
Every
what
year
they did.
somebody goes to Tampa that's not supposed to beat them, and they beat them.
Right. So Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles gets that defense. You mentioned the defense. McCollum's playing well. They love him. Dean's good player. They have good players on that side. Savassier Dennis made a bunch of plays the other day. They have good mix of young and old. And once they get the line healthy on the offensive line, they'll be fine on offense.
I like Liam Cohen too. I think the OC there. I think he's done a heck of a job. So like the team, 4 is just rich for me. All right, who's too low, Kyle?
It's got to be the Arizona Cardinals for me. The Arizona Cardinals are a little bit too low, and I'm trying
21.
I'm trying to find them here. 21, Pete. 21. That's not perfect. You know who was perfect last week? Kyler Murray was perfect.
Hey-o.
He was perfect. And he was pretty damn good week 1. He wasn't great week 1, but they had the Buffalo Bills on the ropes. And the Buffalo Bills are up there. Where are they? They're the number 2 team on your power rankings. They have the best home field advantage, yada, yada, yada.
Bills woke up, and that was
You
the
got
end
to
of
go to
that
Western
game,
New York
though.
to
Come
play
on.
these guys. Kyler Murray's not afraid of him, and now people are afraid of Kyler Murray again. And when I look at the Cardinals and the things they did to the Los Angeles Rams, a division opponent, this is a statement game. And to have them at 21, it's a little bit disrespectful, Pete, okay? You know what? I think Mike did a great job of laying out all the skill pieces they have on offense yesterday, different flavors for Kyler Murray to work through. We saw Marvin Harrison, 5 catches, 130 yards in the first blink of an eye in this football game. They are dangerous. They can play with anybody. And when you get an offense like that, you allow your defense to rush the passer. I think it bodes well for these shootout type games. And I trust the kind of athlete that Kyler Murray is. And I'm not just talking about a guy who can go out there and run a 4.4, run underarm tackles and through the legs of his linemen, but I'm talking about a real athlete with arm skill, somebody who can change his arm slot, somebody who's got a quick release, somebody who can get the ball out in these spread situations. Kyler Murray's great. It's a quarterback-driven league. Too low for me, 21.
I'm looking at who's ahead of him, though. Jets at 20, Browns at 19, Eagles at 18.
I'm not sure
I'd put them ahead of any of those.
I don't trust the Jets yet. I don't.
That's fair. But it's just because the Arizona Cardinals are just so bereft of talent defensively.
Terrible on defense.
Cleveland Browns are at 19.
Jonathan Gannon, I think, is a great defensive coordinator. I think he deserves a ton of credit for what he's done early on in keeping this defense just like to not be a sieve.
A liability.
But it's still a Jimmy's and Joe's game at the end of the day.
Dude, so, I mean, there are certain guys that throw off the balance of the game. When I think about the Kansas City Chiefs playing against Lamar Jackson, even in front of a porous offensive line, particularly on that right side, sometimes bad plays can turn into great plays for a guy like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. Patrick Mahomes, some of his best plays are when the play breaks down.
Well, we'll give them the offensive side of the ball, but you mentioned their defense. That's an issue. And they played a Rams team that was
with nobody on the field.
Really nobody.
Cooper
But
Kupp
they won
went
by
out.
30 points in the
I get
National
it,
Football
but
League.
sometimes you ambush a team and it's over and they go
These guys
high
get
for
paid too, Pete. I'm not putting a lot of stock into that because Matt Stafford's a great quarterback. They couldn't even keep it close.
Yeah, but once you know how a game gets out of hand and guys go looking for what they're going to eat that night at dinner. I mean, come on.
The last time that I got my ass whooped like that, we went up to New England and Rob Gronkowski had about 150 yards and Brady threw it for 5 touchdowns. And that team was in a different class, another echelon than the team I was on. That's why I'm saying too low for the Arizona Cardinals.
Maybe too. I mean, look, maybe over the Browns because Deshaun Watson still wasn't very good, but the Browns defense is good. I mean, they didn't play good in week 1, but they're good defense.
Speaking of good defenses, that leads me to my team that I think is too low. It's the New England Patriots at number 26 on this list. They beat the Bengals. They went to OT with the Seahawks at home this past week. Bengals on the road. This defense, at least, top 3 in the league right now. I think the emergence of Keon White, I was wondering what was going to be, who's going to rush the passer after Matthew Judon got traded. What's this defensive line going to look like? Keon White's good.
Question answered.
He's been nasty line the defensive front. And I never had questions about the secondary, but watching this secondary and how they've handled the Bengals in week 1. And yeah, they gave up a lot of yards this past week, but a lot of that was, to me, just Geno having a heck of a game. It was difficult out there more often than not for him in that one. And that's why they only scored, 20 points in regulation. So when you have that good of a defense, I'm just looking at the teams around them, whether it's the Rams, whether it's the Jaguars, whether it's the Dolphins now without Tua. I don't know what they have to hang their hat on, the way the New England Patriots do with an elite defense and a run game that is going to be difficult to stop. So it's just a touch.
We'll know more about them Thursday night, right, against the Jets. And Jets haven't looked great on offense, but we'll know more about them. You're right, the defense. Look, I did a thing on Sunday on breaking down Keon White. The guy, what they're doing with him is incredible, too. I give Gerard Mayo and that defensive staff a lot of credit. They're moving him around. They're standing him up over the center. He's been so active, and they have a lot of different. How many looks do they play when they have one guy with his hand on the ground? I mean, it's creative.
The versatility.
And they got hit for some big plays the other day, but that'll happen when when you play different style of defense. But I like what they've done. I just worry about that offense. That's kind of me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not going to debate you there. The offense is bad, but I think it's complementary in that they can run the football still.
Right.
Like they have the people to run just a brute force, 3 yards in a cloud of dust all the way down the football field sort of person.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really important that Jerry Mayo was a player, and not only a player in this town. He understands what this city wants to see. They want to see a multiple defense. They want to see guys that are versatile. I always thought of those groups in New England as, it was the Swiss Army knife of the NFL. You could line up against potentially 6-7 different guys at the line of scrimmage. So you have to prep for them. Not only that, with them moving around, you talked about one guy with his hand in the dirt. That means the games are coming. That means the picks, the stunts, and you got different rush angles, guys approaching the line of scrimmage from the second level. It's chaos for an offensive line anytime you play this defensive front from the Patriots.
You'd rather line up, put your hand in the ground and know who's across from you every single time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love to get after different guys. Sometimes it can get boring, and sometimes for them it gets boring, and I'm like, get away from me. Like, you're too damn good. But at the end of the day, if you present me with a different look, like a defensive lineman that's off the ball, walking around, trying to do the sneaky thing, I love that, because that's not your game. Come into the phone booth, get punched in the mouth, and let's do this thing.
Right.
Let's play some football.
How about all the twisting and stunts?
Twisting and stunting, that's where your teammates come into play. I mean, for any offensive guard, if you got a 3 technique, it's mano a mano. They call that a money block. It's just like a tackle on the backside, on the man side of a protection. It's just me and you, hombre, like, let's do this thing. But when you get the games involved, and that's why I was talking about the Eagles' unwillingness to get those games going with Lindstrom, you have to now work with your center. You're snapping off a guy. You're snapping off a guy to me. I have to flip my hips and loop. There's a lot more things in play. There's a lot more wheels in the engine than just the one-on-one thing. We have to get this operation smooth when there's games.
There's like a mental aspect.
Right.
100%.
Which you don't get the rep much in full contact at all.
No, and we talked about this. I said, I see
week.
the linemen suck at picking up games right now. And you pointed out, and your guy Pacelli was talking about it too. And I think, instead of doing these one-on-one pass rush drills, which they like to do every week, which is geared towards the defense, they get to work there. First off, it kills the offensive lineman's confidence when you're going one-on-ones throughout the week, because you're sore, you're trying to get your body back, and now these friggin' super athletes that rotate on Sunday are fresh by Wednesday, and they're ready to embarrass you. Well, how can you make it good for everybody? Make it so the defensive linemen are still rushing 100%, but also make it a 3-man game. So instead of one guy going, 3 guys are going. It's more efficient. You get more reps, and you get to work with a real defensive line working real stunt games. Because when do O-linemen work on stunts?
Right.
Individual period. So it's a fatty with a red jersey over there. It's
Roll
nothing like what you're going to see on Sunday.
Right. You can't simulate it.
All right, team that's ranked just right. We actually have the same one.
Yeah, I think I'll let you take this away.
New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, we got the New Orleans Saints.
Number 6. I think maybe not even just right. I think if like you put Bucks and Vikings ahead of them after their hot starts, I'm buying more into what I saw from this New Orleans team, not only on the offense side of the ball, because I think the offense speaks for itself. 15 straight possessions that they scored so far.
Come on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But the defensive side of the ball, I think the secondary is tough. I would not want to go against them. And they did it without even Marshawn Lattimore this past week. So when he's back healthy, even more so. So I think they play complementary football in that regard, that when they have a lead, they have the horses that can stop you. On the other side, when you have to pass, but this offense specifically, it's not only just that the points are there. It's like they have the personnel that this can work against anyone. Yeah. I would not want to have a play action pass with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave running downfield at me. Those guys can absolutely fly, especially Shaheed. I mean, he's probably the closest thing from a pure go ball perspective to Tyreek in the NFL. Like his top speed, no one's catching him. I saw him that week 1 game, a post against JC Horn. I mean, stride 6 or so yards past him at both full speed. Shaheed's just got it. So when you have that running game and the offensive line, how well they're playing, because such kind of a simplistic scheme for those guys and just inside outside zone is all they're running.
Simple's good because you know
but
what
it's
you have
complicated
to practice.
for the other side because when Shanahan in the
Simple's
late
good
90s,
for the offense.
Yes, when Shanahan in the late 90s was running just inside outside zone, you're going like 2 tight ends. They're not motioning. They're not doing anything. Now you got Shaheed flying across the formation at the snap. You have Taysom Hill come in, orbit motion in the backfield. You have a lot to worry about, and they're tossing it to those guys. They're giving it to them to kind of have those constraints to make you respect those plays in the running game. And then when that's the case, if you're flat-footed against zone runs as a second-level defender, you're getting caught. And that's how you have so many big plays in the Saints running game. So I love what I've seen from them so far. I think it's for real. And 6 is right.
Questions have been answered. And if they haven't been answered really about that offensive line, then they've been covered up really well by Clint Kubiak, Derek Carr, getting the protections right, getting that run game going. Obviously, you get a guy like Kamara. You can do a number of things at the line of scrimmage in the pass game, the run game. You can see him leak out and make some plays. Huge explosive play from him right in front of the line of scrimmage this past week. But look, at the end of the day, I'm really glad that you didn't put them in the top 5 because I don't want to jump the shark on these guys and get too excited. I think they're in a good spot to continue rising. Next week, we could be seeing them in the top 5 if they go out and do it again at an astronomical rate offensively. But look, it's the renaissance of Derek Carr. It is a guy who was truly an elite thrower of the football early in his career. And I remember my first time in the Pro Bowl, I got in the huddle, and it was Derek Carr. Derek Carr went deep post over the middle that was like 70 yards in the air. It might have been the prettiest ball I'd ever seen. And I was playing with Cutler at the time, who threw a great deep ball. What we see with the Saints offense, with those 2 receivers on the outside, is an opportunity for Derek Carr's offense to pound it in the run, get Kamara involved. Next thing you know, you get flat-footed on this in the second level, and these guys are downtown Julie Brown.
And they've kind of, Derek Carr, maybe one of his biggest faults is that he gets into a shell and gets super conservative. They've fought that by not even giving him routes to throw that are like checkdowns. He doesn't even have that hitch that he's just like,
that's what you got, homie.
He's like, if it's not deep, you're throwing it to Alvin Kamara, as a swing in the backfield. Like there is 2 options for you, and you're going to throw it 30-plus yards on any of their options. So they kind of avoided that by just saying, we're not going to give you anything to really do.
Okay, let me play the other side here. And I like what I've seen from them so far. They played the Panthers in week 1. That's an exhibition game. In week 2, Mike Zimmer had Clint Kubiak as his offensive coordinator and fired him. And Clint Kubiak knows what to do to attack the Mike Zimmer defense. And he attacked it. And he was 2 steps ahead of him on every single possession.
Yeah.
And so we have to temper just a little bit there because of those two scenarios in my mind. And there's always
Zimmer didn't fire him; they were both fired, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
No, Zimmer got rid of him.
Did he?
Yeah, I thought Zimmer got rid of him. I thought
it was just clean house after.
I think
2021.
Rick told me. I think he got rid of him.
Okay.
I think it was because Zimmer gave up 800,000 yards to Alvin Kamara the last time they played. It was a Christmas Day game, right? Was that what it was? Alvin Kamara went for like 250 and 6 touchdowns or something like that.
Well, Mike fired a lot of people, so that goes without saying. But the other part of that is there's always Derek Carr's looked good so far. But you know this. The reputation around the league is that when it comes time for the big moment, that he isn't going to make it. And,
this could be the year the narrative's changed.
No one has made them play, from behind, from third downs, third and longs. Like, no one's made them play
Correct.
Derek Carr, win us a game.
Right.
No one's made them play that way, left-handed or whatever you want.
Got to score immediately.
So
team.
that's the thing that we've not seen them have to. But the way it's 15 straight possessions.
Yeah, it's
like
impressive.
The way they've done it so far is still like, not a lot of people may be able to make them have to.
And we were worried about their offensive line. The rookie's outstanding. I mean, but the right side, you concerned about him being over there penning.
Yeah, they still don't go one-on-one in pass.
Right.
They still but that's kind of feature of an offense when you know how to protect them. And even on third downs when they do have to pass, they're doing a good job of keeping a Taysom Hill and get a chip. Like they know.
See, and I was a little concerned about some of the age starting to creep in, but their younger players are making plays too. And here's the other thing: you have 3 corners. And Lattimore didn't play the other day. McKinstry played, but they actually have 4. Then you can do a lot of different things on that back end. And you saw in week 1, Taylor had 3 sacks from the slot. I mean, and so they get creative. And when you have 3 corners who can cover, you could do a lot of different things. So I do like that team. I just always put the caution out there because until Derek Carr shows
that's
me,
why we like the 6, though.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
we thought you did a good job this week. Only a few complaints.
But even me putting him at 6, I got to caution myself because I always know the Derek Carr factor is going to be there. And does it show up? And when does it show up?
If you put him in the top 5, I'd have to drug test you. But
Okay.
I see
All
you're
right.
still
I didn't put him there.
I see you're still on the wagon.
All right, let's get to some awards from the week that was. And people, we'll start with you, the guest of the show. The Mulligan Award for the coach's decision you want back.
Well, it was obvious. It's Sirianni. And I had other ones, by the way, because I pick them all apart.
Let's see. What else?
I hated the fake punt in Detroit.
Oh,
They converted it.
come on. We were saying how much we loved it.
Okay. So here's why I hate it. Here's why
I loved it because it worked.
Okay, it worked. And what's your end game out of it? Okay, it worked and went to where?
Shocked the world.
What does it do?
It gives you an extra possession.
Rallies the troops. The troops get excited.
It didn't rally the troops. But
Oh,
okay, here, where exactly was that? It was like on the
Their own
15?
30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their own-
No, they were
It
inside
was
the
like-
20, I
It
think.
was deep in their own territory.
And so they faked the punt. They got like 10, 12, 13, 14 yards or whatever it was. And all of a sudden now you got a first down at the 34. And you still need 35 yards to go get points. What's the end game? If you fake that in their end, you're getting points. You're maybe getting a touchdown. What's
High
the
risk,
end game?
low reward. High risk, low reward. Yeah.
But that's the guy. That's the guy that we're talking about in Detroit. I mean, it's Dan Campbell. Dude.
Okay, then he went for it again on 4th down
Yep.
and the same drive. And then he got to 4th and 6, and he said, no, I'm going to punt now.
Yep.
So where's the rhyme or reason in that entire series?
He heard a voice. There's a little angel on his shoulder.
The voice should have told him, you don't fake punt your own end. It's stupidity.
It was stupid. I'll say it. But
Okay.
God, it was cool to see.
And I like Vikings. He made a good play on the play. But seriously, I always say, what's your end game? Was he going to go 75 yards for a touchdown? No.
And
Was he?
sick if he did.
Huh?
Baki
That would've
can
been-
run. Baki can run.
Yeah, but come on.
Yeah. No, I know.
What's your best case scenario of that? 20 yards.
I think you could have caught him in a look because it was over the middle of the field where all of a sudden he's going like 40-50 in that. If you get the right look from the defense and he breaks a tackle. But yeah, I do agree that the risk reward on that, I wouldn't call it the Mulligan Award. The Sirianni decision takes.
Sirianni's
That one took the cake.
That one's bad. Really, really, really bad.
Yeah. All right, what's the show me something award? Who was your breakout player?
Stingley.
Good.
I thought Stingley was outstanding the other day. I mean, he's there's the group of corners that we always talk about at the top of the league.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a chance by the end of this year to be in that conversation. And they drafted him with that idea, but it hadn't worked out for injuries and other reasons. It hadn't quite got there yet. I think this is the year that Stingley gets there.
So he followed DJ Moore for much of that game. PFF has him tracked for 5 catches, 64 yards, but an INT as well. But it's like, given that he was following DJ Moore the entire game, I thought he played outstanding. So
DJ Moore was frustrated.
And the thing that surprised me is that is usually the type of wide receiver he'd struggle against because he's a skinnier corner. He's not as physical, but this year I think his physicality looks much improved. And he's always been a guy that can match and mirror. That was why he, was that freshman All-American at LSU way back in the day. But his physicality is kind of taking the next step, and he showed that against DJ Moore. So
we got some more awards here. I think you got some awards to give out, Mike. You got the offensive rookie.
Who are my rookie awards? Okay, let's get to them. Offensive rookie. There was a good number of them. The wide receivers I loved this week. But Joe Alt at right tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers was a darn near flawless performance for a rookie. Now, obviously, no one has flawless performance at offensive line every week in and week out, but that's as good as you'll see from a rookie offensive tackle. Shut down Jadeveon Clowney. It looked like a guy who's in year 7 or 8. He's not the most physically imposing, but he's physically imposing enough, and he is just down-to-down consistent, which is amazing to see because this is his first year at right tackle. He's never played right tackle before. So, Joe Alt, offensive rookie of the week. Defensive rookie of the week. Kamari Lasser had the pick. Some other guys had sacks. I think Byron Murphy had a big sack. Andrew Phillips, though, the slot corner for the New York Giants, was everywhere for that defense. A ton of plays around the line of scrimmage. Now, he played the perfect offense to make a ton of plays around the line of scrimmage in the Commanders with as many screens as they run and whatnot. But his closing speed, his physicality, that's what you want in the slot nowadays because everyone's looking for that guy that people worry about coverage, but its slot position is not necessarily about coverage as much as it is about can you go make plays in front of you? Can you go be an add-on like a linebacker in the running game? Can you dip around those blocks on wide screens and whatnot and make plays on ball carriers? Andrew Phillips looked amazing at that this past week. And that's a good sign. It's not like you don't need that guy to be a one-on-one coverage player anymore. You need that guy to do those things in today's NFL.
But he's still got to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a guy who can do all that stuff and he can't handle a one-on-one slot receiver.
Oh no,
no
yeah.
problem. But you're right. It's such a different.
But like
position.
that skill.
Yeah, you got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to physical. He's a good player.
You know who was going against a wild animal this week? My Florida Man award. It's going to go to Max Crosby. He was going against an absolute hippopotamus of alligator, something you'd find down there. I don't know if they find hippos in the Everglades, but they should. No. They're dangerous. There's a lot of dangerous, in the Everglades. A lot of
pythons.
Well, Max Crosby was in Lamar Jackson's Everglades, and along with that, he was with his compadre, Derrick Henry. And my guy, Max Crosby dominated, okay? He dominated the football game, run and pass. And I know usually we're talking about getting sacks, and he got home there at M&T Bank Stadium in the pass game, but the ways in which he got home, the plays in which he was able to tackle Derrick Henry, the way in which he clotheslined Derrick Henry and made him look human in the backfield. It was an inspirational performance by Max Crosby. And you can even see it when Gardner Minshew throws an interception. Who's the first guy there on the sideline to talk to him? It's the captain, big Max Crosby over there, pounding in Gardner's chest. And at first I thought it was demonstrative, and then I realized he's putting that superpower into Gardner. They find a way to win on the road. But Max Crosby getting home with exit stunts, getting home with cross-face rips in the run game, making huge tackles, flying around, the leader of that defense. It was such a Florida Man performance from Max Crosby.
Love it. And it brings me to a rant of mine, okay? Max Crosby played every damn snap in that game. Why don't other teams play their star players more snaps on defense? And it's an old adage, and I'm going to use it because I'm going to reference Jacksonville, okay? You guys will love this. Ryan Nielsen, I'm rotating guys, right? That's all well and good. You get a little blow here and there. They had backup linebackers play 13 snaps together in the middle of the game. Linebackers, rotating linebackers.
An entire level of your defense.
So I go, just for the sake of this argument, and I was talking with Sully about this, is back in the day, guys played all the snaps.
My dad never left the field.
Ever. So why can't your stars play? Okay, you might go off for a play or two if you get poked in the eye or whatever. Why can't they play more snaps? I don't understand it. If Max Crosby can do it, why can't others?
Is it an analytics thing? Because I know if I'm a coach and I've got a guy like Max Crosby, I'm going to be telling him to stay out the entire game. And a guy like Max Crosby, you don't have to tell him twice, right? He's looking forward for that opportunity.
It's load management. I mean, it's a real thing that they track how like the exertion of these guys, and if they're in the red zone of exertion, it means you're just more likely to get injured. So a lot of teams are moving towards that model of tracking those sorts of things and trying to limit.
Yeah, we wear that stuff in practice too.
Yeah, I know, but here, okay. For example,
but off-ball linebacker is not one. I'm thinking about that.
And
I'm thinking about with like DTs.
Okay, but
yes,
some DMs.
Okay, but
some poor bastard who got double teamed 6 plays in a row. Get him out of there. Get him a breather.
An offensive team goes down the field and drives the ball down the field. It takes about 6, 7, 8 minutes. Goes and gets points. Then there's the break for the kickoff. Then there's a break for the timeout. Then you send your defense onto the field. A lot of teams will rotate the second unit in key moments because it's their time to go onto the field when you've just had 15 minutes sitting on the sideline. You got a chance to put the hammer on somebody. You're up 4, get a sack, get a turnover, go up 11, game over, and yet you have your backups out there. They go down the field, then you send the starters back out. They're at midfield, they make a play, they get either a touchdown or field goal. Next thing you know, you're in a game. That's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy.
And as an offense, if we catch you with the wrong personnel, the right personnel for us out there, if I see, Joey out there, a linebacker, I said, Joey's in the game, we're going to run it right at him. He can't make this read. Then you're going to hurry up. You're going to force that personnel to stay on the field. Next thing you know, the starters are on the sideline. They can't come back in, right? That's just the way that this process goes.
Yeah, when you hurry up.
Hurry up offense.
So does Max Crosby's load management buzzer not work then? I mean, see, to me, I just think the stars
He's from Krypton, man.
It's amazing. I looked through like TJ Watt. I looked through all those guys. He's the only one I saw when I went through the play sheets that he played the entire game.
Yeah, last year, Max Crosby, 1,080 snaps. Most of any defensive lineman in the NFL. Danielle Hunter played over 1,000 though last year. Aiden Hutchinson almost 1,000. But yeah, then you have guys like Myles Garrett, 805. Montez Sweat's.
That's 4 ball games worth of football that you're not on the
That
field.
he's not on the football
That's
field.
4 ball
It's
games.
incredible.
And he still has the
You're
production.
right. Guys like your dad, they never came out.
I remember when Dad came to watch us play on a Monday night, and it was a Vic Fangio coached Bears defense, and we had Akeem Hicks on the team. And Akeem Hicks was a world beater at one point in his career. And Akeem and I had a great relationship. Vic and I had a great relationship. Vic knew my dad. We saw each other in the tunnel, and I was talking to my dad. Vic walks by, he stops, talks to us, blah, 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 blah. And then when Akeem walks by, he tried to sneak by Vic about something. He was sneaking by Vic. And Vic grabs him, introduces him to my dad. And he's like, Howie, tell him how many times you used to come off the field. And Dad looked at Vic straight and he said, never. And he said, you hear that, Akeem? He was like, that's why we need you to play. We need you to be that. And Akeem's 6'6", 380. He's not going to be able to play this. But the message is what you're sending. We need our best players on the football field, because my Florida Man Award indicates that a guy like Max Crosby being out there for 95% of your snaps, that's a damn good thing for your defense. It's a damn good thing for your offense, too.
All right. Mute button award?
Mute button award. Okay, so the scheme dictates how well these guys are able to turn the volume down on some of these rushers. And I was gushing last night about the willingness for this football team of the Atlanta Falcons to run the football, to set up their pass blocking. And when Jake Matthews was out there after a solid play side stretch, first off, dominant on the front side stretch, things that we love to see from Trent Williams, capturing that front side, widening that defensive end. It opens up so many avenues for that run game. You can keep it front side on Jake Matthews. You can bang it up into the middle, or you can ride the cowabunga, dude. You can ride the wave. It looks like a cutback, but really you're riding that wave. That's what that front side sets up for you. And for the mute button, Jake Matthews, it looks boring when he's in pass protection after you set it up with these run plays. And you can talk to Baselli about this. How much easier were the pass reps after you dominate them in the run? You dull their blade. These defensive linemen, they're over there just sharpening their sword, waiting for the opportunity for the pass rush. And if you're an offensive tackle, boom, you get on them quick. They have no plan for that. Jake Matthews, great job. Commitment to the technique, commitment to the game plan, make the run and the pass look the same. You become a mute button, my man. Congrats on the W. You've been doing this a long time. I know you're happy with this offense.
That front side block and outside zone is the most thankless block in terms of just like the guys that are good at it versus the guys that are bad at it, because it opens up all the space for everything else. If you widen that end,
you can press it further front side.
Every other block looks better because there's just more space to play with. But if you're getting your butt just planted right there. I remember Alden Smith used to be the GOAT at he would plant that front side tackle in his tracks, and just outside zone did not work against those 49ers fronts. So you're getting planted, you're going to have a long day around the football.
Love Jake Matthews.
That man, Alden Smith would have been a Hall of Famer if he had stayed in.
That guy was unbelievable. Truly.
It's a shame.
It really is.
All right, our last segment here. We're going to do a little draft. Last week,
this should be interesting.
Short yardage, gap scheme, power running, offensive lines. You guys said that you thought we did a little poll on the YouTube channel and that Pete won, but Pete also had the first overall pick. Now we're going to do a little more flexible here. We're just going to draft 5 skill position players for starting our base offense. What we want. So it can be 3 wide.
We could be looking at empty. We could be looking at
5 wide. Yes. What do you want to start your base offense with? No running backs. Do you want to put a wide receiver at running back? Do you want a fullback? That's up to you.
Are we?
It depends on what. It depends on what position.
And no quarterback. We're drafting the 5 skills.
5 skills.
We're the quarterbacks for our teams.
Well, that'll go well.
Okay, I like
this.
Pete
got the first pick last time. Kyle, you get the first pick this time, and we'll keep going around.
Okay, I'm going to get the first pick in this one, and I'm going to go with this is a tough decision. Okay, you can either go with a guy who's going to take the safeties and put them on their heels, or you can go a guy that'll make everybody pee their pants. I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. He's a distraction-free number 1 for me in my room. Tyreek Hill, great dude, but things happen with Tyreek Hill. Justin Jefferson, just boring, all ball.
I'll take Tyreek Hill. I truly that would have been my number 1 pick if I had it.
I played with him before. We didn't win the Super Bowl.
That's foul. Okay.
I never played with Justin Jefferson.
Tyreek has though won a Super Bowl, and he is he does so much. I mean, it's just your game plan has to change when Tyreek Hill's on the football field, especially when I have him and then I'm getting some other guys here.
Yep.
To have that open up the space for everyone else. Give me Tyreek.
I'll take Chase.
Ooh. Jamar Chase, even
that's wild.
No preseason Jamar. You think he's
I still think he's in that same class with those guys.
okay?
I think he's it's Jefferson, Hill. Me personally, I take Hill. I wanted to take Hill. You took him. I would take Hill first, and then Jefferson, and then Chase. But I think he's in that same category.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's my pick here.
So I don't get the swing pick.
We know we do the full loop.
And these guys are all healthy. These are week 1 guys, like week 1 of the season.
Yeah, we'll do everyone's healthy. Everyone's like peak form.
I want the easiest guy to get the football to in the National Football League. A guy you can throw at the snap of the football. Debo Samuel, San Francisco 49ers. You pair him over there with Justin Jefferson, you got a scary little duo.
Debo was high on my list because the flexibility he gives you.
He's a running back. He's a receiver. He's a slot. He's a blocker.
He wouldn't even been in my 5.
Well, that's why we're going to wear your ass out, Prisco.
You got a guy who's not your best receiver on your team and a guy who's not your best runner. He's just that guy.
Yeah, well, you can get him the ball every play.
I wouldn't take it.
Oof, gosh, where am I going here? I could pair Tyreek with Jalen Waddle. That would be
that could be fun.
I could just start.
That could be fun.
Offense. I think I'm going to go though because I don't like my other options here, and this again is 5 skill. I'm going to go with George Kittle because I think the gap between him and any other tight end in terms of just like all around ability right now is pretty large. You have guys who can maybe do what he does as a receiver and like Dalton Kincaid, Brock Bowers. You have guys that maybe can do what he does as a blocker, but I don't think you get both. If you're Bowers and Kincaid are not blockers the way George Kittle is, so give me George.
I'll take CD Lamb. You see where my offense is going, don't you?
He wants just
I want playmakers.
3 separators.
I want the outside guys. I want my offense to down the field.
I'm going to beat you a number of different ways, guys. I'm going to beat you a number of different ways.
Fullback, please.
I'm not going to be taking a fullback. You know what? I'm going to take a guy that you can set your watch to, a guy that you know is going to be a winner at 1-on-1, sometimes even 2-on-1. I'm going to go Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dude, I want 3 types of receivers out there. My next picks will indicate what kind of offense we're going to be running. But I will say, I like the little trio that I've got right now with Justin Jefferson, Debo Samuel, and Mike Evans. This is going to be a fun offense.
Okay, you're making me do this. I had a few different ways I could have gone offensively. I was thinking maybe I go like a big, brutish, just draft like A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, go that route. But since it's set up well this for me, I'm going to go Jalen Waddle here. Give me I got Tyreek Hill, I got George Kittle. Well. Yeah, we already know that it works, and I'll keep going that route. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
I have the speed guys down the field, right? The big play guys down the field. I got
the speed guys. You have the separator like alpha ones type of.
So now I need my quarterback to have something that he can create mismatches with in the passing game. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's good pick. I had a lot of running backs, though.
I don't normally like running backs. In fact, I say you pull them off the shelf and put another one in there, or you draft them, run them into the ground and draft another one. But this guy's different. When he's healthy, he's different than everybody else in the league. And I'm going to play fast. I'm going to play loose. I'm going to play free. And I want my back being able to create mismatch problems in the passing game. Christian McCaffrey is my pick. Okay.
I like that pick. I'm also going to go with the running back position, and I was thinking about going CMC with my next one. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. I want to be able to run the football if need be. I've got guys who can block on the edge there with that receiver room. I'm not sure if Justin Jefferson is just going to be a run-em-off type receiver, but he may get involved in the running game. Kenneth Walker. Give me a healthy Kenneth.
All right, I'm zigging here. I have Tyreek Hill. I have Jalen Waddle, George Kittle. I'm going to go Brock Bowers. That's my next pick. I have Kittle, Bowers, 2 speedsters on the outside. We're replicating what the Saints have been doing offensively here. We just got speed and some blockers to work with. A lot of play action. Hopefully we have a strong arm quarterback also.
I got to get a tight end, so I'm going to go with the pass-catching tight end since I'm going to play very fast and loose. And my pick would be Kincaid. I know he is off to a slow start, but I knew
you were going there.
I still think he's on for a big year, and he'll get that thing cranked up. So I'm going to go with Kincaid.
I'm going to go with the tight end that has to operate in an offensive room with a lot of stars because, the volume may not be there for this guy with the current guys I've got on my roster. A lot of stars in that offensive room. I'm going to go with a guy who gets along with a veteran quarterback really well and a dude you can set your watch to. I'm going to go Dalton Schultz. Because I love the way he's able to separate in the pass game. He's somebody that's predictable on third down, and he's sure-handed. He's not going to be throwing him the ball that much, but when these guys are covered, I want to be able to get somebody that I trust the football. Travis Kelce hasn't gotten the football in the first 2 weeks, so I'm going to be going Dalton Schultz. I'm going to get a lot of hell. There's Laporta out there. There's Likely. There's Andrews. I like Dalton Schultz, and it's all about a scheme fit here. It's a scheme fit at home. So ridicule me if you'd like. That's my pick.
All right, my last one. Tyreek, Waddle, Kittle, Bowers. I need a running back. I'm debating between Breece Hall and Devon Chain.
Just go with the Dolphins.
Yeah,
man.
I'm going to go with Chain. I'm going to go A-Chain.
Just go with the Dolphins.
That speed is going to be just difficult to account for. I mean, you have low 4.3 at 3 different positions, and they all can catch too. Like A-Chain's a very good receiver out of the backfield. So my backup will be like a bruiser. I probably need a bruiser in there with the 2 tight ends, but my backup.
Let's
Let's
put a cherry on top here. If you had to pick a quarterback, let's let Pete go first here, or me go first.
Or Pete, round out your team, and then you can pick the quarterback first for your team, just like for your ideal for your team.
Yeah.
Okay.
No Mahomes.
I'm going to pick Neighbors.
Yeah, I like
That's
that
a
one.
good
I was
pick.
debating Neighbors.
So I want to see you guys cover my receivers.
This is tough.
Yeah, you just got kind of like 3 interchangeable guys who you basically have to play zone against, and
I made like a realistic team that I wouldn't feel bad playing against somebody in Madden with. You guys really just threw
Went
for it. I respect it.
Right.
That's the exercise.
Well, yeah.
But I'm thinking like
Your team might be,
I'm thinking
your team might be 7-10.
I'm thinking realistic
Yeah.
here. I'm thinking realistic. We got to think about the cap here. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of
yeah.
expected
we're
cap.
going for it this year. We'll worry
So
about
who's
the
your
cap.
who's your quarterback?
Mahomes.
Okay, Patrick Mahomes. But if it wasn't Patrick Mahomes, who would it be?
Allen.
Okay.
For mine, I want Josh Allen. I have already like 2 blockers to get him involved in the running game if I want to, and then I need the arm with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. So give me Josh Allen.
I'm going to take the most fun guy to watch every week, not named Patrick Mahomes. And he's a guy that we talked about a lot. He climbed up your rankings a little bit. He got a big win on the road in Detroit. I got Baker Mayfield. I want the toughest quarterback in the
Your
National
team is
Football
going
League.
7.
I want the toughest team
I mean, look, I
in
like
the National
Baker.
Football League.
I like Baker, but you pick Baker over Joe Burrow?
Did you see Joe Burrow play the last few weeks?
Wait, you wouldn't take Baker over Joe Burrow.
I would. Right now, I would.
Your team's 7-10.
Right now, I would.
I feel for you.
I would take Baker Mayfield over Joe Burrow today.
Mike, that's a 7-10 team.
Laugh it up.
You could have 5
You know what the
Hall
great
of
thing
Famers
is?
and you still might be 7.
You know what the great thing is? We don't
even
even have to play these teams. It's just this is a fun exercise for me. I like to close my eyes and picture being in the huddle with those guys. You know, Justin Jefferson, Kenneth Walker. We're looking at Dalton. What's going on, man? Big third down, bud. You know, these guys are going to be making plays. Your guys are too good. They're not going to be able to get on the same page.
I do think there's a
teams are too
world
good.
in which if your team had, I think Joe Burrow is who I would put on your team for the quarterback. That like you have guys that are like Mike Evans with Joe Burrow is such like a
outside the numbers.
Zone. Justin Jefferson just does the heavy lifting in that he commands. So
you really
attention.
reached on
and
your
then
tight
Debo
end.
is like your screen.
I like Dalton
weapon.
Schultz a lot.
You reached on your, but there were better options there.
I like
Laporta's
Laporta's peed down his leg a little bit here the last few weeks.
That's probably where I would have gone.
Laporta was my pick, but he didn't show up for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. 7-10.
Chris McCaffrey.
11 and
5.
13.
Well, let the people vote. They like your team most last year.
Kill me again, guys.
I'll say it's definitely me or Pete. I like mine just from like the pure matchup standpoint. It's going to be tough to go.
You want to have beers with my team.
Yours is tough.
You couldn't match up with that team.
You want to have beers with my team.
Your team, we probably want to have beers with your team. My team, I want to win.
And Baker's buying.
I want to win. Baker will buy. I want to win.
All right, that's the end of our show here. We'll be back tomorrow with Leger Douzable going in deep into some of the storylines that we wanted to hit, that we've been burning on, that we just haven't had the chance to talk about yet. Thank you to Pete Prisco. Thank you to Kyle Long.
Thanks, sweetheart.
Thanks for making the bad picks. Made me look good.
This is what I do.
Like, subscribe, follow if you feel so inclined, and make sure to get those mailbag questions in. If you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we saw your guys' from last week. It might take a little because the way Apple reviews work, we don't see them right away, but we'll get to them. We will for sure answer them if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, keep pushing.
I might take out Schultz.